It's February. We've gotten Valentine's Day out of the way. The Canadians have gotten Family Day out of the way. We've gotten President's Day out of the way. We've gotten Fastlane out of the way. And for those moviegoers like myself, we've gotten the debut of Deadpool out of the way. Now for the most important part of February. It's time to find out what you all asked the Phoenix. What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, here indeed with the February edition of Ask the Phoenix. If any of you are checking this out for the first time, this is Ask the Phoenix. This is my monthly Q&A series. This is my favorite thing to do on this channel as a solo video maker. Obviously, the videos that I do with other people, the tackles that I do before the pay-per-views, whatever, the interactive portion of that is great. As a solo recorder, this is my favorite thing to do in the month, and I've always said if this channel goes down to one video a month, it will be this series. So thank you for all of you who have put in questions. Thank you for all of you who are watching. For those of you watching for the first time, you want your stuff to be in the Q&A in March. Put your questions down in the box below, and I will see you in a month. Now, it's an interesting set of questions this time. As it always is, not quite as long. I think we've only got about 40 questions. We're not quite taking it to where we used to go, where people tried to send me 100 questions, and I was here rambling on for days and days and days. But it is good. I think what I am going to do from here on in, however, is I'm going to limit questions to 10. This is not in any way to shoot down the mainstays, the familiar faces in my comment section that try to give me more and try to throw in as many questions as they can think of. It's merely an attempt to encourage other people to participate, encourage other people that maybe haven't asked a question or saw the comment section and went, holy fuck, I don't even think my question is going to fit, to encourage that participation. So with all due respect to the amazing people that are in this comment section nearly every month, for the next little while until I sort of say otherwise, I'm going to be limiting it to 10. If somebody doesn't get the memo on that and they give me 11 or 12 or 13, it's just going to be a matter of I'm going to pick 10 of the questions that you ask me, and we're going to go on like that for a little bit. Hope you guys are cool with that. I'm pretty sure you are. I mean, any questions you don't ask me can follow into the next month or whatever, can't they? It's Friday night, and I'm already out of breath. And I've already had a few alcoholic beverages, which is why we're switching to water so I don't fall asleep in front of my video camera. How does that work? Phenom and Hitman 2 says, will WWE ever bring back the Women's Championship, and should they? I've said for a while, you want to push your Divas division, you want to push your Women's Wrestling division, push the legitimate athleticism of that division. You have to stop calling them Divas, and you have to stop having them fight over a tinfoil butterfly. Bring back the Women's Championship. This is one thing. I know TNA is circling the drain. The one thing I will say is they had a far better women's title belt than WWE is at, because even the women's championship belt before this was pretty bland. It kind of looked like a warped penny that said women on it. I mean, I know we say that about the tag team belts, but I like the tag team belts for different reasons. I don't think either belt is particularly great, but I think the theory behind it, you got to go back to the women's championship at some point. Does Sting deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame even though he's only had 2 big matches in the company? Yeah. Because, I mean, we've got other people in the Hall of Fame that haven't done anything for the company, that haven't done anything in WWE, and they've still been recognized. Plus, WWE now owns the libraries and all the intellectual property of WCW, so anything Sting did in WCW is technically for the betterment of WWE's library now. So if you go back through WWE's library, you see a lot of Sting. And it's one of those, he's one of those names that you just, you can't not have him in there. It is the best thing to say to that. But yeah, does he deserve it? Absolutely. What should WWE do to liven up the tag team division? Push a tag team? They need to stop, and I know it's a booking decision, and I know it's what they do to hype up feuds and whatnot. They need to stop having outside of the tag team division tag matches, if that makes sense. Now, if you've got Dolph Ziggler who's in a rivalry with Alberto Del Rio, and you've got Neville, who's in a rivalry with Sheamus. You don't have Dolph Ziggler and Neville versus them, because that's a tag match, but it's a tag match for reasons with thrown together guys. That way, when you have a division tag team match like the Ascension or the Usos or the Dudleys or the New Day or the Lucha Dragons or something like that, you've already seen a tag match with supposedly, in WWE's eyes, bigger names, so why do you care? The best thing to do to liven up the tag team division is limit tag team matches to tag teams, so that it feels special, so that it feels genuine, so that anytime you see the dynamic of a tag team match, it has impact on the tag team division. Because if you don't, I know it's a building tool that they use quite a lot, but it takes away from the spectacle, it takes away from the dynamic, it takes away from the uniqueness of tag team wrestling. Now, when you come along to, obviously there's going to be exceptions. There's going to be things like the Survivor Series, where that's basically built on extended tag team matches. I mean, that's one thing in the year. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions to what I say there, but that is the biggest thing. Tag team matches don't feel special because we see too many of them, and especially the other thing is to get rid of tag team matches, period, in the women's division, unless you're going to have a women's tag team championship. Because tag team matches in the women's division really underscores how useless tag team wrestling is. Because now you have people competing in tag team matches who, even if they were a legitimate tag team, take a look at the Bellas, the Beautiful People, the BFFs in NXT. They are having tag team matches. They are winning as teams, but what's the point of them being a team if there's not a belt? So eliminate female tag team wrestling, or create a women's tag team division, and eliminate random outside of the tag division tag team matches on Raw and SmackDown. Why did WWE randomly throw Brie Bella into the Divas picture at Fastlane? Charlotte needed a filler feud. We knew we were going to get the NXT triple threat match that we wanted at WrestleMania. So, yeah, just let it be that. The inline of Daniel Bryan quitting and a lot of emotional support that we would have thrown at Bryan being thrown behind Brie was a thing. Really, I know most people aren't going to agree with me on this, the Bellas have been fucked by the Divas Revolution, because there are people in the division better than the Bellas. Absolutely, I will always say that. But it is totally masked the fact that the Bellas have steadily gotten better since they've been in the WWE. So the Bellas, who were on top at one point, have been thrown on the back burner. Nikki got injured. Daniel Bryan had to retire. They had to throw, realistically, and I say this morally and genuinely, the WWE owed it to Brie Bella to throw her a bone and give her something. The idea that her twin is now Alicia Fox, and that's Team Bella is really just Brie Bella and Alicia Fox, is bullshit. I think they owed it to her. I think it gave her a little bit of a special moment. It gave her something to follow up her husband retiring. It gave her something while her sister's injured. It gave Charlotte something to do that was away from Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks, because if these three are going to fight at WrestleMania, I would be okay with these three not touching each other until WrestleMania, if that's the match we're going to get at WrestleMania. So there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of little, no big astronomical reason to give her a title shot, but there are a lot of little reasons where Brie Bella versus Charlotte didn't hurt anybody. And I'm sorry, guys, Brie Bella versus Charlotte was a hell of a lot better than most people are giving it credit for. If it ends up that it's a fatal four-way at WrestleMania, I know a lot of other people will complain about that, but I will be okay with that. Was replacing Elimination Chamber with Fastlane a good or a bad choice by the WWE? Well, Fastlane is a whatever the pay-per-view before WrestleMania is a throwaway pay-per-view now. It served a purpose when it was the Elimination Chamber, because back then we had the brand split. We had two titles. One title match for WrestleMania was established at the Royal Rumble. The other one was established at Elimination Chamber. That was sort of the 1-2 punch leading into WrestleMania. We don't do Elimination Chamber anymore because we don't have that anymore. The main event for WrestleMania typically now will be set at the Royal Rumble. Now, we didn't do that this year with the way they reworked the Rumble and made the Rumble for the belt. We had a number one contenders match at Fastlane, but Fastlane is always going to be seen as a throwaway pay-per-view, and I think it's cool because Elimination Chamber isn't tied to WrestleMania. It doesn't fall under the same high standards that it used to, which is okay. It's not used for the world title anymore, which is okay, and they just use it as another little incentive, another little bonus show to get people into the WWE network, which I think is cool by them. I think when you have it for minor belts, it's not quite seen as important. It's still a cool concept. I still like the match, but it's not like, okay, it's February, we got to pump out a chamber match. It comes a little more, I guess organically is the word I'm looking for, but what they were able to do with it, with just making it a network special last year and having one for the Intercontinental Championship and then the brand new one for the Tag Team Championships, was quite cool. They broke themselves out of a mold so they can do more with that stipulation, and Fastlane is it is what it is. Who do you see Undertaker facing at WrestleMania, assuming that it isn't already known by the time you're answering this? I did a fantasy booking for WrestleMania. My answer hasn't really changed. Obviously, we know now that it's going to be Shane McMahon for reasons. I did a fantasy booking at the beginning of this year. I said, I'm fine. As a fan, I am ready to see Undertaker versus John Cena. I just am. It's a thing. Jim Ross, according to his blog, says he thinks that this will not likely be Undertaker's last WrestleMania. Assuming this is true, who should Undertaker face at WrestleMania 32, and who should his retirement angle be booked against? Let him face John Cena this year. If they're going to do Taker Sting, if Sting is healthy enough to do it, let him do it next year. They both go in the Hall of Fame. Easy peasy. Or Sting's going in this year. He can do one more match after going into the Hall of Fame, I suppose. Do you think WWE will eventually bring back Hulk Hogan? Of course they will. Of course they will. He's way too tied to their history. He's way too tied to the fabric of pro wrestling to not bring back eventually. I mean, they fired Alberto Del Rio, and look how fast they brought him back. And Alberto Del Rio is not Hulk Hogan. I think they realized quite quickly how stupid the idea of trying to remove Hulk Hogan from wrestling history was. So yeah, it's going to happen eventually. I wouldn't be surprised if they re-inducted him into the Hall of Fame. Wouldn't it have made much more sense if Chris Jericho had turned heel in his match with AJ Styles to further escalate the feud into Mania? If that was the case, then yes. If they were going to go with Jericho versus Styles again at Mania, then that would make sense. I don't think they are. I think there's heavy rumors that they're going to push these guys as a tag team for a little bit, which I'm not exactly crazy about. The other option is the other rumor, which is that they're going to have they're going to build towards Styles versus Owens for the IC Championship at lost my train of thought, at WrestleMania. And if that's the case, I am 100% okay with that. It would have made sense, yes, but have Jericho win one more, ask for one more match in a friendly competitive atmosphere type thing on Raw or SmackDown, and treat the match at WrestleMania like the last of a best of 5 series would be the way I would go there. I wouldn't necessarily have had him turn heel. I would have had him ask for one more match and then turn heel on him on Raw. But I think the idea that they had their match at Fastlane, he earned Jericho's respect, got the handshake, got put over that way, did a lot more for him than a swift kick to the back of the head would. Should WWE... Oh, okay, hold on. Who should WWE promote from the NXT main roster next to the main roster? My answer is kind of funny, because my answer is the guy that I don't mind staying in NXT, and that's Finn Balor. As excited as I am to see Finn Balor on the main roster. I'm just as excited for him to stick to his guns and stay in NXT and really be the face of that brand. I'm not going to lie. As much as disappointed as I was with this week's NXT, I'm really excited for next week, the Finn Balor versus Adrian Neville match. I think that's going to be great. I've heard good things about it because obviously it's already been taped, but I've heard good things. And considering who the next name to go to the NXT roster is, I think Finn Balor should stick around a little while longer and face him. If you don't know who I'm talking about, check out the spoilers or wait till next week. Should WWE bring back the Hardcore Championship? Would it work in today's PG environment? Absolutely not. It would be treated as a joke, and it would make me sad. Because the Hardcore Championship was treated like a joke the first time around, really. It was presented to Mick Foley by Vince McMahon as a joke. It turned into a division for a while. We got the 24/7 deal. We got Al Snow and Big Show and Raven driving around on golf courts with Jimmy Corderas in Toronto. I was there, just saying. We had Hardcore Holly and Crash Holly doing the 24/7. We're really 400-pounders when we're really not. If we weren't PG and we could actually book hardcore wrestling, like proper, like blood sport, blood feud type hardcore championship matches, then yes, in WWE's product in any conceivable future, absolutely not. Didn't it feel like there were no major surprise entrants in the Royal Rumble this year? As much as we all knew it was happening, I still popped. It was still cool to see AJ Styles and to see Sami Zayn's second only appearance on the main roster be in the Royal Rumble match. Both of them getting a good chunk out of Kevin Owens. It was good. I mean, nothing's really a surprise because everybody that comes to the main roster is going to go through NXT. So theoretically speaking, any surprise entrant that we see in the Rumble or any debut we see at the Rumble is going to be somebody that we've seen because they will have come through NXT. So it's kind of a hard thing to do. If you want to talk about surprise comebacks, then yeah, I guess. But I mean, at the same time, you could call Zayn a debut and a comeback and a surprise. AJ Styles, kayfabe wise, AJ Styles was your surprise entrant of the year. Don't know what else to say about that. I mean, kayfabe wise, we all saw the writing on the wall, but Triple H returning was in storyline a surprise. So, and I mean, some surprise entrants are goofy. Let's be real for a second. Vince McMahon being in the Rumble was goofy. Friggin' Drew Carey being in the Rumble was goofy. Guys like, I don't even know. Guys like The Godfather coming back, or Val Venus, I think, came out one year, and guys that are just there to make us go ooh ah and they're gone. There in a lot of ways I would rather just have 30 guys from the roster. I know the returns and the surprises and the debuts are fun, but they're in a lot of ways I would rather have a solid 30 guys from the roster in the ring. And that's, I think, what we got this year, and I didn't mind that personally. I know that's a bummer for some people, but moving forward, you know, it is what it is. What I didn't like about this year's Rumble is how we took Roman Reigns out of it for 20 minutes and then brought him back to almost win it. Is it fair for incoming wrestlers such as AJ Styles and Nakamura to debut on the main roster and not be forced to start in NXT? From what I know, Shinsuke Nakamura is debuting in NXT at the TakeOver Dallas show. From what I hear, he's taking on Sami Zayn. Somebody correct me down in the box below if that's changed. AJ Styles coming to the main roster was a strategic move by the WWE. Was it fair? Maybe not, because we're really going forward with that mentality of every new star for the WWE is going to come through the NXT system. But at the same time, you got to think about WWE knows the chatter that NXT gets. People treat NXT like it's a different brand, even though it's not. Those people are kind of retarded. But people treat it like a different brand, and there's like the statement pretty much across the board is, I'd rather watch NXT than WWE. So now if all the exciting, if all the new, if all the flashy all goes to NXT, then what do you do to get people to watch your main product? Samoa Joe debuted not too long ago. Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano arrived with a lot of flair. Sami Zayn just came back. We have, as I say, I'm not going to spoil it for those people who genuinely are avoiding spoilers, but we have the name that is debuting next week, coming to NXT. So you have to give some pop to the main roster. You just do. Or else slowly nobody... It's like the Royal Rumble question. Like, if all the pop, all the circumstances, and all the surprises all happen on NXT, then Raw, or the WWE main roster in general, just becomes another link in the chain, another link on the wrestler conveyor belt, starting in NXT, ending at WrestleMania. It just becomes another link in the chain, rather than the flagship show that Raw is supposed to be, that the main roster is supposed to be. Because yes, I know NXT is its own brand. I know fans have adopted it as the alternative, even though it is a WWE product, but at its core, NXT was created as a developmental system. The other thing about it is you bring in all these international stars, like AJ Styles, and like, especially who's coming next week, along with Samoa Joe and whatever, and the people that are legitimately new, legitimately trying to make a name for themselves in the first place. The prime example I have is Baron Corbin, who's not great, who still needs to grow, and who still needs to be taught, and who still needs to, get somebody with a sander and rough out a bit of his edges there. But that's what a developmental system is supposed to do. The fact that he's not there yet, it means he belongs in the developmental system. But if you have Baron Corbin and AJ Styles both as developmental talents, Baron Corbin is never going to look good. And the fans, even if he does get good, they're going to give him the Bella treatment and not acknowledge that he's good because somebody's better. It's a tricky one. But yeah, Styles coming to the main roster directly, maybe it was unfair to the other guys that have to go through the NXT system, but WWE has to do something on their end. Should WWE try to get NXT back on a TV station, or should they keep it on the WWE network as an incentive for the subscribers? You've basically answered your own question. People shit on the pay-per-views. I don't know who's watching WWE just for the other content that they have on there. The Total Divas and the Edge and Christian new show, and Superstar Inc. and Unfiltered and all that stuff. They're fun little entertaining things, but people are ordering the WWE network for NXT. If NXT was available on regular mainstream TV, I don't think WWE would have half the internet I don't think they would have half the network subscriptions that they have now. And that's just a fact. Now that it seems now that the WrestleMania 32 seems to be locked in, what last-minute options does WWE have to get the fans on the side of Roman Reigns? Here's what you do. Two things. Either you turn Roman Reigns heel, which everybody wants to see, or you have the Authority make the match between Triple H and Roman Reigns a no-holds-barred match so that anybody can get involved. You have the Authority pay off the rest of Roman Reigns' family. And before the match starts, you have Roman Reigns getting beat down by The Rock, by the Usos, by Rikishi if he decides to make a guest spot, by Rosie, by Nia Jax and Tamina, and if you really want to make it sting, throw Naomi in there. You have him get beaten down by his own family. Prime pickings for Triple H. You see the handshake of all heel handshakes between The Rock and Triple H, and then you have Roman Reigns come back and win as a babyface, and have him go, I'm not saying be like Austin, but have him go total pissed off babyface wrecking machine, like vengeful, almost. The only thing I can really compare it to is Punisher. Have him go Punisher. Have him be a good guy, but no real morals. Have him be a guy that's taking out the bad guys, but he's not particularly a nice guy either. Have him just fucking tear shit up. Have him become this like crazy super razor focused guy who's so focused on revenge and obliterating all these people that have fucked with him that it almost goes to his own deficit. Have it be in certain matches that his own anger, his own aggression, his own adrenaline is his downfall. Have people take advantage of it. Have him struggle. But have that start with the entire family turning on him for the money. Do it, and yes, I'm fully ripping off the Vince McMahon Bret Hart storyline from WrestleMania 26, was it? But I think in this case, because they're all WWE people, they will do it. I mean, you can spin off so much things like this. You can start a Samoan, you're gonna start a Samoan faction with the Usos and Tamina and Nia Jax and Naomi. They can be managed by Rikishi. If Rikishi wants to come back and be a manager, they can always come off and they can get the good heel pop from The Rock. You can do a lot of things from it, and I think if you do that much to Roman Reigns, he's got to start getting sympathy at some point. I mean, other than the fans that have just decided they're never, ever, ever, ever going to cheer Roman Reigns, but that's how you do it. A little outside the box, a little heavy-handed. It would be a little Superman at the end of the day, but it's Superman that I think they could pull off quite well. And I mean, Triple H being that devious guy that could go down to the depths of turning somebody's own family against them would play off really well, I think. Cheney, 815, buddy. Like one of the originators of the comment section for this series, gives me 10 questions. He says, Valentine's Day may be past by the time this is read, but it doesn't mean we can't show some love to the ladies. LAY-DEES. Well done. Considering how the former diva won the belt and how the latter diva left the company, do you feel Nikki Bella's record-breaking Divas Championship win was a fuck you CM Punk more than a fuck you AJ Lee? I think it was fuck you both of them, because any chance they get to put the screws to CM Punk, they're going to do it. And they, on the one hand, they have to see it as, CM Punk left and then AJ left in the same vein. It's like, okay, we're already damaged from CM Punk leaving, now you're leaving the ship too. But on the other hand, when Punk left and AJ was there, they had to be spending a whole lot of time sitting on pins and needles waiting for the other shoe to drop. So both of those scenarios, when she was there and when she was gone, had to be really, really shitty for the Divas division, especially after the amount of time and the amount of good shit that AJ did right before she left. Leading into her last match at WrestleMania with her and Paige and the Bellas was some of the coolest Divas stuff we've seen in a long time. I think at this point, if you ask WWE, it's fuck both of them, which is shitty. But I think the move to have Nikki take over the reign, or sorry, to take over the record, was to help Charlotte, honestly, because you want Charlotte, who's this next big diva that they're pushing, to be able to go out there on a microphone and say, I beat the longest Divas champion ever. But she wouldn't be able to do that if the longest reigning Divas champion ever was still AJ, because AJ left. So they gave that title to somebody else in Nikki so that Charlotte could take it away. I don't think it's WWE kissing the Bella's ass as much as I think they passed on the bragging rights of AJ's streak, whatever you want to call it, to Nikki so that Charlotte could look like her victory over Nikki was bigger. But obviously, was there a fuck you to CM Punk and AJ Lee in that? On paper, no. On paper, we did it because of this, and this. In the back rooms, when all the booking is being done and all the guys go out for a beer after they've done writing the storyline, are they all cheersing and saying fuck both of them? Probably. That's pretty legit. Thoughts on Stephanie McMahon's stint as the SmackDown General Manager 2002-2003? People really loved her as GM. I think the way that her and Eric Bischoff reacted to each other whenever their brands were competing was really, really, they almost had like a bickering siblings type of vibe, and it made it very, very fun. Job Team Barry, female YWC members that you've collaborated with edition. The Orton Storm, Emo Kitty Cat with a bunch of X's and O's, and Nutty Rock Chick. Now, this is a fun one because I haven't actually collaborated with Nutty Rock Chick. I was on a hangout that was hosted by Wrestling Jesus, I think, with her a little while ago, and I got yelled at because I don't like Preston and Alex. So there's that. Emo Kitty Cat with a bunch of X's and O's and the Orton Storm are two people that I don't really talk to much anymore. I hope they're doing well with whatever they're doing. So I will job all of them and bury all of them. Noticeable by her absence is the Black Cat Feline, Kristen, who I look forward to previewing WrestleMania with and hopefully doing some more movie reviews with quite soon. So I would team with her and I would bury the other three. For reasons. Speaking of female YWC members, where the fuck is Steffi Sunshine? My fingers are crossed to see her potentially return in one of your tackle videos. Simple answer to that is Steph doesn't watch nearly enough, or not nearly enough, doesn't watch nearly as much wrestling as I do, and it's not nearly as much of a fandom as it is for me. She likes NXT, we talk about that. She's ridiculously busy doing all kinds of things that I'm not going to get into because it's not my place, but she's out there being a friggin' superhero and saving the world and such. So, she's got, I believe this wholeheartedly, she wouldn't say this, but I will say this, she's got much better things to do than to hop on Skype and help me with a wrestling video, and that's just a fact. Do you think Ring of Honor or Lucha Underground should have their own women's titles? I do not watch either show, so I will not say what they should do. So the 4 horsewomen are in WWE 2K16, but Eva Marie isn't. Or sorry, the 4 horsewomen are not in WWE 2K16, but Eva Marie is. Why? I don't know, the same reason Santino's in it, and Alberto Del Rio's not. Eva Marie has been on the WWE main roster before, and she's a fixture on Total Divas, which they're constantly trying to push. The 3 of the 4 horsewomen that are on the main roster now just got there. So, I mean, it's a matter of not getting in there before the deadline. There's really nothing else to say. Does it suck? Obviously, yes, but it is what it is. Have you heard the song Shatter Me by Lindsey Sterling featuring Lizzie Hale? I have, and I listened to it again after I saw that suggestion. Lizzie Hale, as you guys all know, is the lead singer of Hailstorm, which is one of my favorite bands. This song that she did with Lizzie Sterling is haunting and amazing, and I don't usually veer off of the wrestling too much, but if you are a fan of any of the music that you hear on this channel, just in my intros and outros and whatnot, go check out Hailstorm in general, but go check out this this little bit here called Shatter Me by Lindsey Sterling featuring Lizzie Hale. Job Team Barry, the Maple Syrup Edition. Sorry, Spaz, I had to do it. Trish Stratus, Natalya, and Angelina Love. Ho, ho, ho. Barry Natalya team with Trish Stratus, and I would let Angelina Love pin me all fucking day and night. All night long. Woo! Could you have seen any of the following women fighting for the WWE Women's Championship? Tori Wilson, Ashley Massaro, Maria Kanellis, Kelly Kelly, LOL, and Jillian Hall. Ashley Massaro. She was green, and she had all kinds of better work that she could have done in the little bit of time that she was there, but I think she could have been something amazing. I think she definitely could have been women's champion. Tori Wilson, Maria Kanellis, Kelly Kelly was the bane of my existence when she was a thing in WWE, and Jillian Hall was famous for having a scab eaten off her face. Enough said. Comprise your own fantasy 10-woman traditional Survivor Series featuring past and present divas of WWE and NXT. Okay, so what I will do, just to make this a little bit easier, and I just dropped something, but whatever. I'm going to take my fave 4 from the main roster and my fave 4 from NXT. Fave 4 on the main roster would be Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, Paige, and Nikki Bella. Add Trish Stratus to that team. My fave 4 on NXT are Asuka, Alexa Bliss, Emma, and Bayley. And throw Lita on that team. And there you go. Because you've got NXT versus WWE, and you've thrown in my favorite Divas feud of all time, and that would just be a fantastic match. I'm selfish on that one, aren't I? You'll notice no Naomi, no friggin' Tamina, no Nia Jax, no Charlotte. Yes. None of that. None of it. On a totally unrelated note, this month marks my 10-year anniversary of officially becoming a wrestling fan. Well, congratulations for that. 10-year anniversary. Have a drink, have a beer. You and wrestling are going to go have many babies together. Fantastic. Anyways, thanks for reading and answering. Cheney, buddy, on a serious note, all jokes aside, you are, like I say, one of the mainstays in this Q&A, buddy. Thank you very much for always participating and always adding a very specific and very annual contribution to this series. It's fucking great. Speaking of very, very consistent and annual contributions to this series, the Zohan says, would you have believed me if I told you in 2010 that the following would happen by 2016? WWE pay-per-views for under $10, Christian as a world heavyweight champion, Brock Lesnar re-signing with the WWE, CM Punk legitimately quitting the WWE, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Prince Devitt, Kenta all making their debuts, Bruno Sammartino, Ultimate Warrior, and Randy Savage all inducted into the Hall of Fame, The Rock wrestling John Cena, Sting wrestling for the WWE title, the end of the brand split, the unification of both world titles, and Undertaker's streak being broken. Okay, we're going to break that down a little bit. WWE pay-per-views being under $10. I don't really look at it that way. I know that probably sounds really argumentative. WWE has a product that they're willing to sell. They've put all their eggs in the WWE Network basket, and they are so desperate to get that up off the ground that I think they're willing to sacrifice their pay-per-view buys to get that $10 for the network for the month. I think if you ask the WWE, they don't, as much as JBL and Michael Cole say it on Raw all the time, you know, $9.99, I don't think the WWE sees it as they're selling you a $10 pay-per-view. I think they see it as they're selling you a $10 a month package that includes a pay-per-view. But no, I wouldn't have predicted it. We had so many false starts and false rumors about WWE getting a network. I didn't think the network was going to happen at one point. Christian as a world heavyweight champion, only based on the fact that Edge was injured. If you had asked me at the time, I would have probably said, yeah, if Edge gets injured, they'll probably give him a sympathy title run. That kind of sounds cynical, but I mean, look at Rey Mysterio after Eddie died, right? Brock Lesnar re-signing with the WWE, that was a 50-50 because, I mean, we've seen a lot of people that have gone and lost their abilities in other sports, mostly football, then moving on into the pro wrestling realm. So for him to do that after he was done with MMA, already having an established name in WWE, it was pretty much a layup. CM Punk legitimately quitting the WWE, they were dicking him for quite a bit. And even when I first started hearing about this guy CM Punk, I had heard that he was kind of a dick and kind of had a not to be fucked with attitude, so it wouldn't have entirely surprised me. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Prince Devitt, and Kenta all making WWE debuts. Well, Kenta and Prince Devitt haven't made their WWE debut, neither has Samoa Joe. They're all on NXT except for AJ Styles. If you had said to me in 2010 that Prince Devitt and Kenta are coming to the WWE, I would have honestly said, who? That would have been my answer. I wouldn't have thought so with AJ Styles and Samoa Joe because there was such an attitude at the time, at least among us wrestling fans, that WWE sees TNA as poison, as something lesser than them. I mean, the only ones really to come back was Christian, and like I say, that was helped by the emotional impact of Edge leaving. I mean, Ron the Truth Killings came to WWE after being, you know, reasonably successful in TNA. He was their world champion at one point, and now he's our Truth, and he's going to be in the Golden Truth with Goldust, and he's the guy that brought a ladder to the Royal Rumble. So I would have been terrified for them, honestly. If you told me in 2010 that they were coming to WWE, I thought they would have, you know, Samoa... I made the jokes all the time, but legitimately I would have thought, you know, if they bring in Samoa Joe, they're going to make him like the third Uso or something like that. AJ Styles is probably going to get some goofy gimmick. Like we all heard when Neville was coming to the main roster, he was going to get that Mighty Mouse superhero type gimmick. I would have had the same concerns for AJ Styles, but he made a pretty decent name for himself over in Japan from what I can see and hear. Bruno, Ultimate Warrior, and Randy Savage going into the Hall of Fame. I would have said they were slam dunks eventually. Like, no matter what, it's going to be similar to the answer I gave about Hogan a little while ago. Their names in wrestling are too big to not be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what Hulk Hogan has done. I mean, I do care, but I don't care about Hulk Hogan and what he's done in his personal life and whatever. If you have a wrestling Hall of Fame that doesn't have Hulk Hogan in it, it's not a legitimate Hall of Fame. You could say the same thing for Warrior, for Savage, for Bruno, for Andre, Austin, Rock eventually, Undertaker eventually. These are names that if you, for whatever reason, decide not to put them into your Hall of Fame, then your Hall of Fame isn't legitimate. If Vince McMahon dies and his name does not go into the Hall of Fame, that Hall of Fame is not legitimate, in my opinion. I know that's controversial or whatever. Rock wrestling John Cena I could have seen only because we saw Hogan and Rock, and I would have said at the time, yeah, they're probably going to want to recreate a moment like that at some point. Now, did they do it? That's another argument to be made for another day. But you can see where the thought pattern was there, because Rock Hogan at WrestleMania 18, which, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I was there for Rock Hogan, and it was pretty fucking spectacular. The match, if you want to analyze the match itself was not great as a match. As a spectacle, it was fucking phenomenal. Being there in the crowd, I cannot, and this is where I'm going to start gushing, and just over enunciating the fact that there's no explanation for what it felt like, even though he was a heel, when Hogan came out in the Skydome. There just isn't. There just isn't. And seeing him go face to face with The Rock, the Monday Night Raw a couple weeks before that WrestleMania, when Rock did his big speech, and Hogan was, out there trying to be a badass, trying to be WCW Hollywood Hogan, and Rock just came out, he cut his promo like he did, and it's that whole promo that ends with him like sort of swooping up right in Hogan's face, and it's that line of, you talk about main event in WrestleMania after WrestleMania after WrestleMania, how about you do one more WrestleMania with The Rock, like that, leading up into that. Now that one little goosebumpy feeling, imagine that spread out over a whole match in the building at WrestleMania. You can't beat it. WWE almost couldn't help themselves to try and recreate a moment like that. So no, that one wouldn't have surprised me at all. Sting wrestling for the WWE title, I wouldn't have guessed that. I sat there and prayed when they did the WCW invasion angle that they would bring in Sting, because they needed one singular main guy to be the quintessential WCW guy, and I don't think they had it. They really didn't have it. If you had that one singular, without a shadow of a doubt, symbol of WCW, you would have at some point had Undertaker versus Sting. That would have been a thing. Like Sting, like people used to call Sting the conscience of WCW, they used to call The Undertaker the conscience of the WWE. Or WWF as it was at the time. We wouldn't be fantasizing about seeing Undertaker versus Sting at WrestleMania, because that match would have happened back then. The end of the brand split and the unification of both world titles. The brand split was not a good plan long term, and I've spoken ad nauseum about my feeling about there being two world titles. You got two people that can you got two people with belts calling themselves the best, then neither one of them is truly the best. If you had said to me at the time, we're ending the brand split and we're unifying the belts, I would have said it's about fucking time. Undertaker's streak being broken, at the time I would have said no fucking way. At the time, I would have said no fuck. If you told me at 2010 that the streak was going to end and it was going to be Brock Lesnar, I would have told you to go fuck yourself. That's just a fact. Could Sting be considered one of the greatest of all time, even though he's only wrestled 2 matches for WWE? See the question I answered above. Very, very similar to that. He's wrestled 2 matches for WWE, but if you're talking about all time, you're talking about every wrestler that's ever existed, not just WWE. So, yeah, of course. Do you believe the WWE always intended to hire Alberto Del Rio or about Alberto El Patron, as they only fired him to save face in the eyes of the corporate community? I think they know they have an asset in Del Rio. I think they know what an amazing athlete he is, and I think they know at the end of the day, a guy that gets smacked at work isn't going to get the same reaction as a guy that's been racially discriminated against at work. Now, I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. That's just me taking the pulse of the world at 2016. It's heavier. The guy was racist to Del Rio, and that's going to get a larger reaction on the global scale than somebody getting smacked at work. It just is. And I'm not saying that that's particularly right. That's just, again, me taking the pulse of the world in 2016. All the people out there crying that words hurt and shit and such. Was it a mistake to have 3 Money in the Bank matches in 2010, 1 at WrestleMania and 2 at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view? Yes, for a lot of reasons. I don't think there being 2 Money in the Banks in a particular year was a good idea, let alone 3. I think the idea to take Money in the Bank out of WrestleMania and make it its own pay-per-view was a mistake as a whole, and I think the idea of having 2 Money in the Bank briefcases floating around was shitty, because then you knew what belt somebody was going after. If you had 1 briefcase and 1 winner, and that guy could go after anybody, I think it made it more unpredictable. It made it something that happened only once a year, and it made it great in that way. Expanding it out to 2 was dumb. The way it worked out that year, the year they made the change, and there was 3 briefcases in that 1 year, was fucking ridiculous. Because if somebody cashes in, excuse me guys, if somebody cashes a briefcase in at the beginning of the year, and then there's another cash in around June, by the time the third guy cashes his briefcase in September, it's like, well, yeah, we've already done this story this year twice, so nobody cares, and that's the feeling I had with it, honestly. Where are we going? Is the Royal Rumble the greatest gimmick match of all time? The Royal Rumble is an extended version of a Battle Royal. The Royal Rumble match concept in and of itself is not super spectacular. The Royal Rumble is the greatest gimmick of all time because of its tie to WrestleMania, because it is, it's become the cliche now. It is the first step on the road to WrestleMania. It is the winner of this match is going to WrestleMania, to be prominent at WrestleMania, to get a world title match at this year's WrestleMania, and because of that, it's also the unofficial kickoff to the wrestling year. So there's a lot of things around it that make it special, that make it epic, that make it once a year. The match itself, though, it is an extension of the Battle Royal concept, and Battle Royals in general are kind of clusterfucks. Like we talked about earlier, it's fun to see who's going to compete, who's not going to compete, who's going to make it to the end. People want to bet on who the final 4 is going to be, who's going to eliminate who the surprises are. There's a lot of talk and speculation and hype, and it's when everybody that does fantasy booking, anybody that does, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they did this type conversations, videos like we do here in the YWC, it's the most wide open creative time for WWE and for WWE fans, and I think you can just, it's like a piece of Play-Doh. You can basically do whatever you want with it, and I think that's the appeal of the Rumble, let alone the fact that it sets in motion the first definite elements for WrestleMania. So in that, you put all those elements together, yeah, it's probably the best gimmick that WWE's ever come up with. But a lot of that has to do with structure, as opposed to the match itself. Should Wade Barrett have won the Royal Rumble in 2011 instead of Alberto? Absolutely not. Should the WWE get rid of all pay-per-views named after match types? Only 1 or only 2? So, I know when people say that, they mean the pay-per-views like Elimination Chamber, like Hell in the Cell, like TLC, but you got to imagine that before those pay-per-views came along, it still wasn't an unheard of concept for the pay-per-view to be named after the matches. Look at King of the Ring. Look at, as we were just talking about, the Royal Rumble. What else would you call the Royal Rumble pay-per-view but the Royal Rumble? Same thing goes for Survivor Series. I know people think that Survivor Series has kind of dropped off the face of the planet, but it's still fun. Survivor Series matches is another thing that happens only once a year. So even if the pay-per-view is shit, Again, I'll compare it to the Royal Rumble. Even if the Royal Rumble is shit, it's still fun because it's the Rumble. Survivor Series has that same appeal. King of the Ring has that same appeal to me, even though nobody agrees with me. So the other ones, like Hell in the Cell and all that sort of thing, are really following a framework that's already been there. It's just that they're a newer thing. So people are a lot more jaded nowadays, and people are a lot more apt to say, well, why the hell would you do that? When they don't take a second to look back and say, yeah, we've kind of been doing this all along. Should anybody be winning the Royal Rumble more than once? Yeah, they can, if the story presents it, and if they're performing in such a way and the fans are behind them and all that sort of thing. Look at CM Punk when he won back-to-back Money in the Banks. Look at somebody, the only 3-time winner was Austin, and look, is he the only? Actually, somebody's going to correct me down in the box below. I think Austin is the only or he was the first 3-time winner for sure. I think he won back-to-back, and then he won another year or something along those lines. My dates are fuzzy. You guys know I'm not good with that shit. But I mean, you give it to somebody like Austin, then yeah, of course. You give something like that to a Jack Swagger, and people are going to be like, hey, WWE, what the fuck are you talking about? It does depend on the individual. It does depend on the reason. If you wanted to play up a storyline that some guy goes into the Rumble at 30 and wins, and for the next year all the heels in the company bash him and be like, yeah, you won the Rumble, but it was a fluke, you came in last minute, you got lucky, rah, and he goes in with a mission the following Royal Rumble at number 1 to prove that he wasn't a fluke, and you build up a big story like that, then yeah, by all means, have a back-to-back Royal Rumble winner. But if you want to do it just to do it, then it's not so great. What's more valuable to WWE's career, or a WWE superstar's career, a Royal Rumble match win or a Money in the Bank briefcase win? I have said this on my videos. I have said this in other people's Q&As, trying to get them on my side on this. It depends whether you are a face or a heel. The Royal Rumble is tailor-made for babyfaces. You went at all your opponents head on. You survived through the elimination of all your opponents. You go to WrestleMania. You face the champion. They know you're coming. You see them face to face, man to man, fist to fist, and it's the last leg in your journey to become a champion, become a new main eventer, rah. Money in the Bank works great for heels because Money in the Bank is a chaotic, weapon-filled brawl where somebody can be smart, or somebody can be a little bitch and hit somebody with a low blow, or somebody can get one lucky ladder shot in. They don't have to wait through the elimination of all 10 other people. They just have to have a lucky couple of 5 seconds, grab that briefcase, and fuck off. And once they've got it, they can sneak attack you. They can fucking wait until you've had a 10-minute match with somebody else and you're worn down. They can beat you over the head with the case. As long as they've got a referee with them, they can grab that quick win and steal your title. The concepts are almost polar opposite. There's so much honor and prestige and sort of dignity, so to speak. There's so much straight upness about the way somebody wins the Royal Rumble and progresses naturally into WrestleMania than somebody that steals the briefcase and uses the stolen briefcase to steal a title. So it's a 50-50 question. It depends whether you're trying to push a strong face or a strong heel, because my answers are going to go either way on that one. I think that's it, unless my screen has frozen. Thank you guys, as always, for tossing your questions in. You guys make this series happen. I said at the beginning of the video that this is my favorite thing to do. It's very easy for me to do as well. If I can be selfish for a second and admit that to you guys, I love doing this because it's easy. I don't create any content for these videos, you guys do. These videos don't exist without you guys. This is great. You guys come to me, the idea that you guys come to me like this, just wanting my opinion on all this type of stuff, and now, especially with a couple of you that have branched off and started just even asking me non-wrestling questions, it's kind of fantastic, and I do come to you guys humbly for a second, and gets me right here. No, seriously, you guys are great. You guys are really, really great. And those of you that do send me questions, keep sending them in. Narrow it down to 10 so we can give a couple other people a chance. Those of you that are watching this religiously, and I've had people tell me that they watch these videos and they just like watching me answer questions. They don't necessarily have anything to ask, and that's cool. That is if you're just sitting here, you're just watching, you're kicking back, asking other people watch their questions, that is cool. But if you are sitting on the edge of your seat with a question on the tip of your tongue and you just haven't asked it yet for whatever your reason may be, please ask it. There's no silly questions, there's no stupid questions, there's no bad questions. There's no reason to not ask, is what I want to say to you guys. And like I say, I'm cutting down some of the regulars to 10 questions apiece in the hopes that more of you that haven't maybe said something yet will take a chance and take a turn and have your voice heard, because that's what this series is really about. I've rambled on for quite long enough. You guys are all fucking great. If you want your questions answered in March, put them down in the box below. I have been Spaz. This has been Ask the Phoenix. I am your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all of these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.